when you're online, it's really, really easy to get a positive feedback. It might not be meaningful. It might not last more than 2 seconds. It might be a like on Instagram, but you can get those hits. In person, that's much harder. And so I would say be vulnerable and get out there in person. You have to learn how to navigate and maybe be rejected a few times. Rejection is not such a bad thing.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
That's sick Shane for you people wondering why he sounds as deep and manly as he is today.
Not normal for me right now.
With that being said, though, Shane's still here sick because we couldn't miss out on bringing on my friend, Danny. What's up, Danny? Welcome.
Hey, Vin. Hey, Shane. How are you doing?
We're doing great. We're excited to have you here, especially me, because I love what you're building. I love what you're doing, and I love what you're all about. For all you listeners, Danny is the co-founder of Sprout Society, and as always, we will let our amazing guests tell you more about them, because we could never do the justice of talking about their businesses. So, Danny, without further ado, please tell listeners who you are, what you're building, a little bit of the story, and let them get to know you.
Yeah, so as Vin said, I'm co-founder of Sprout Society. Sprout Society is a nonprofit organization, and we focus on building community and connection to combat loneliness and improve mental wellness. We do this through peer support, so bringing people together who have similar lived experiences, who are going through similar life challenges, and really for anyone who's just going through life. Our feeling is that as you navigate life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the sad, you need a community to go through it with. Even to just ask the question of, am I crazy? Is this normal? I mean, it's things that come up in really everyday life. And the truth of the matter is that when you have this community and connection, it improves mental wellness. It improves your overall well-being. And so that's what we're on our journey to do. It started with the unfortunate loss of my brother, Russell. So in 2018, my brother, Russell, passed away from fentanyl poisoning, and he was 25 years old. And as you can imagine, my family was in absolute shock. At that time, nobody knew what fentanyl really was. It was, how could a 25-year-old, young artist in Brooklyn who had the world at his fingertips pass away from something like this? And so there was a lot of stigma, shame, along with the grief that we were feeling. So Russell was an artist in Brooklyn. He lived in Bushwick, and he worked in production, directing. He also was the lead guitarist and singer in his band. That day, he was supposed to release his new album with his band. And so after he passed away, a lot of his friends came to us and said, you have to do something to honor his legacy. You have to do something to release this album. And we put together a celebration of life event in Bushwick. Over 600 people attended. It was in September, so he had passed away in June, very short after. And it really organically grew into this community of people that Russell had cultivated. It was our community that we grew up with. It was Russell's community in Brooklyn. It was his artist community. It was his friends from all walks of life. And when we did the event, what we realized was everyone was seeking this connectedness. It was a concert where Russell's music was played and released. My dad actually played with Russell's high school band. Various of Russell's friends played in tributes to him and their own music. And it really was just a beautiful evening celebrating his life. And out of that, the goal was to create a memorial award fund at the School of Visual Arts where Russell attended. And we did. And then we had people coming up to us and being like, so what's next? What are you doing next? And that's really where the organization started to blossom. We thought it was just a one and done celebration of life. And we realized that Russell's legacy deserved to live on.
It's a beautiful sentiment. It's very difficult to deal with the passing of someone because at least in today's society, right? It's that ideology that they're gone, that we're missing something. And of course we're missing their life and their essence, but I like how you've transitioned it into a celebration of life. Because I think in today's society, there's so much emphasis on the sadness, the devastation, the loss, the void, yet and I think it's very fitting for your company's name, right? Sprout Society, because from the dirt sprouts this new rejuvenated community, this love, this togetherness. So what is Sprout Society's main focus now? How are you guys bringing people together? How are you continuing to connect? Like what's the ideology? What's the mission?
Sure. And I'll stop for a quick second to say that Sprout Society actually has a double meaning. So we love the meaning of the sprouting and renewal, but also Russell coined his own nickname, Russell Sprouts, like Brussels sprouts. And so when we were thinking of the name, it just came to us, Sprout Society. It had such a rich meaning in just the name itself, but also that Russell created the name himself. And so that was something that was really special to us.
I love that.
But to go back to your question about mission. So our mission is to combat loneliness. When we looked at, and even I went through this with my own grief, right? When Russell passed away, I said, who's out there that at the time I was 28 years old, that's 28 years old, that had lost a younger brother to fentanyl poisoning? And I felt so alone. After Russell passed, we had hundreds of people at my parents' house. I had so many people around me. Everyone had different ways of expressing their condolences. But really, all I was looking for was hope. Like, was life going to go on? Like, how was I going back to work? What was next? Were my parents going to be okay? I have a younger brother, Max. Like, he was planning to go to medical school. Is he going to be able to take his tests? And I think it was really lonely. Even though there was tons of people around me, nobody could really understand the experience. And I had someone reach out to me, an acquaintance, who said something along the lines of, welcome to this shitty sibling loss club. I lost my brother. I want you to know that there are people here. Not a lot, but there are people here who have gone through this. And that was the first time that I was like, whoa, there's hope. I looked at this person. Their life continued. They were able to, what I call, expand their life. They were able to find a partner. They were able to have those life moments that I was so looking forward to. And that's really what it's born out of. It's finding those people who are going through similar experiences or have similar lived experiences and joining them together so that they feel less alone and so that their mental wellness can improve. And at Sprout Society, the mission is building community, building connection to end loneliness and improve mental wellness. And what that means for us is creating peer groups, creating peer group environments. It could be one-on-one, it could be in a traditional group setting, and it could be with experts, and getting them together and connecting them. We saw that there is a huge gap in the mental health ecosystem. Lately therapy has become cool, and I love that. I love therapy. I couldn't live without it. Therapy has become cool. There's a lot of crisis centers. The social work field has really grown. There's a lot of education around it. But when it comes to community mental health, there's really no aggregator in the peer-to-peer support world. You look at AA, you look at NA, and you look at GA, and those have been tried and true, so successful, right? They've been successful. That's peer support. They're peer facilitated, they're self-led. And what I was finding when I was doing research about, creating Sprout Society and really where the need was, because that's what we want, right? We want to create a need. I mean, we want to fill a need, and we want to make sure that we're serving the community. And of course, Russell's values and his ethos is throughout. But when we went to go look, we found that there was a huge gap in that peer-to-peer support if you didn't fit in the buckets of AA, NA, or GA. And we even found that people were going to some of those groups when they didn't necessarily have the problem, just for that community aspect.
Yeah.
And so when we found that there was a gap in the market, and when we looked at who Russell was, which was, he was everyone's go-to. When people had problems, they would go to him. He, ironically, he was the sounding board. He was the one who made everyone feel better. He brought all walks of life together. It felt right.
Yeah. It's a very interesting thing too, because to your point of like fentanyl, because it was so new, most people didn't even know what it was capable of, right? Like now we know it's super deadly and super challenging. And I'm sure Russell was an amazing beacon for people. And maybe he wasn't really even like terribly struggling with something. Maybe he was just being a curious kid, being like, oh, what's this? You're doing it? Me too. Why not? And then that terrible moment happens. But I do love the way that you guys have really been putting that emphasis on like Russell's legacy, being the person that could connect with people. And I love that you guys are doing that at Sprout Society, because you're right. You don't need to join AA. You don't need to go to these things, especially if they're not a good fit for you. But there's so many people that feel lonely. Even a lot of my clients that I talk to, they're just like, yeah, man, I'm lonely. I'm like, join a mastermind, go find a group, because you realize, especially the name of our podcast, being a one percenter. Being a one percenter is lonely. You might have money, you might have status, you might have friends or connection, right? But what you're actually missing is like the connection on a level of the depth of understanding, because you're all doing something similar. So I love that you're bridging that gap of like, it doesn't have to be that you're here because you're struggling. It could be that you're here because you want people and you want to go through life in a way that you feel connected. So I absolutely love the mission of Sprout Society. Shane, I know you had something to say. Go for it. I had to just get that out.
First off, Russell Sprouts, such a badass nickname. I love that. And the fact that your dad jumped on there and like rocked out the guitar, like I felt like I was actually there with his old band. That's super awesome. I'd love to make a contribution to this too. I really do believe in, and I've connected with that, unfortunately, as well. I've lost two very close friends, one to fentanyl and one to overdosage on pills. And we actually call it the fam chat, where he was part of, 8 really close friends that actually drew us to be closer. And we call it the family now. And I think it's really important to hear, because that community, that family that you're actually building is so important. It's, I think the biggest thing there is accountability, especially if you're wanting to go to that route of escapefulness. Anyways, I want to talk more about this actual community here, especially with the loneliness nowadays and with technology pretty much taking over. Unfortunately, I get caught sometimes too. I have 2 kids. I have a 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old. And sometimes I'm doing this. And like, even if it's work or emails or even just doom scrolling through a video, and my kid's trying to play with me or get my attention, and I'm just gone mentally in my own space. Being this entrepreneur that Vin mentioned, it's so important to do networking. It's so important to not be alone, to just vent, to get your thoughts out, to have a friend, to see like-minded individuals. And I love that you're actually, doing that. And I love that you even mentioned it doesn't have to have like a tragic moment, that's attached with this. It's just, I want to be embraced with other people, that are feeling alone. So my question is, are you doing this strictly into this Brooklyn community? Are you venturing out? Are you planning on doing anything that's, maybe virtually, like across the nation? Or are you seeking to go into other neighboring cities, or what's the plan here for Russell Sprouts?
Yeah. So we started in Bushwick by luck. We got offered a space in Bushwick, and it was kind of the perfect timing, and we took it. And Bushwick is really what I call our proof of concept. It is to see, does in-person work? Is it better virtually? What gets people in the door, both virtually and physically? Calling all lonely people, that's a hard call. People don't want to admit they're lonely. And as you said, we don't just focus on the negative. We focus on no diagnosis. So you need no diagnosis to come in. We focus on just getting people together to connect. And so the plan is, however we can get people to connect is how we do it. And our model is that we do it in person. we've found that in-person events are tremendously successful. People are craving it, especially since COVID. People want to be connected. They want a no commitment connection, so they don't want to be stuck somewhere for a very long time, but they want the ability to come in and out. And I think that's really, really important. I think building those social skills, being able to have a conversation with someone else. We talk about kids. I mean, I wonder what my kids will be able to connect about. Is it just about technology? Is it about the in-person? And I think that's really, really important. And then we do offer virtual services as well. So the goal is to do physical, both in our space in Bushwick and in third spaces. So through partnerships, we do a lot of events with like-minded organizations, like missioned organizations, or just spaces that make people feel good. We bring it to them. And then also virtually. We've focused a lot on the in-person and definitely in Bushwick to test programming. And now we are rolling out more of the virtual program. For the virtual program, we hope that people can connect who are not able to come in person. We've had a lot of people say that they're not comfortable coming in person to peer groups or to any workshops, whether it's accessibility, whether it's because of where they live. And so we want to make sure that our offering is accessible to all. And also for virtual, a lot of people they feel the shame, they feel the stigma of wanting to connect with other people. I think it's so stigma. If you don't have a group of friends or if you don't have a tight-knit community, people feel like there's something wrong with you. And that's not the case. And so I think virtual helps people get in the door and just gives a level of transparency to say, look, there's other people here who are just like you, or maybe they're not like you. And those are the people that you're seeking out to connect with. And so I think both the physical and the virtual are very important.
Can you give me just because I'm imagining going out, seeing a live band, almost like a corporate picnic setting. Is this like group coaching? Is this like together sports events? Like, can you just elaborate a bit more on these types of events and what you do and what separates you guys from anything else?
Yes. So the groups and the events look very different depending on who's attending. So our events that we've hosted look like an artist displaying their work and showing their work. It looks like creative co-working hours where we have open time in our space where people can come and be creative. You don't have to be an artist just to connect. They look like we have a program called Do Nothing in Community where people can come and literally just do nothing.
Oh, yeah,
I think in our society, productivity is so put on a pedestal, and sometimes the nothingness and doing nothing with people that you want to connect with is really important. And then we have the other side of it. Be productive in community. If you have tasks on your list, if you're a freelancer or if you're building a business, a lot of entrepreneurs come to us and say that they feel so incredibly lonely. One, because they're physically working by themselves and because they're in such a silo. And so by opening up our space, our physical space allows people to come in and connect. They could be doing work and then they could be connecting with the person next to them, or they might not bring any work and just want to come and connect. And so that's a little bit about what we do to bring people in the space. We also host traditional peer groups that are around a certain topic where people come and that they can connect about that specific topic. So it brings in a more specific group of people. And then we also have partner events. So we do things like wellness events, things that make you feel good, things that improve your mental wellness, partnering with other organizations who bring things. And then we also do mindfulness. So a lot of yoga, a lot of energy work, and anything in that category. And so our space is very diverse. And same thing for virtual. We find that virtually we do mostly workshops with experts. So our programming is, as I said, it's one-on-one in peer groups and with experts. And then we also do things like listening tables. We go out to the streets of Brooklyn or Manhattan or a certain area, and we set up a listening table. And you'd be surprised how many people just want to come and stop and chat. They just need someone to tell something to. And whether it's because of the shame, because of the stigma, they don't have anyone or that they feel comfortable talking to or that they want to talk to, or they need a new perspective. Not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to have a therapist, to have coaching, to have mental health care. And I think you asked what really differentiates us. And I would say the two things that differentiate us the most is that we provide our peer programming at zero cost. So as a nonprofit, we raise money so that everybody has access from a financial perspective to come and attend our programming. We think that financials should never be a barrier to accessing. And two, it is the fact that you don't need a diagnosis. You don't need to be in a hardship. Yes, when there's a life hard moment and you need someone to connect with, we want to be there. But I think because of that, we kind of sit in a unique position where we're able to say that joining as a community and connecting as a community is really big in prevention for mental health. Most of the mental health system right now is very responsive to crisis. You have to hit your lowest low, or you have to face some big challenge in order to either feel okay reaching out for help or even to get it. And I think that needs to be changed. The way I think about it is if you have a community, if you know how to interact, if you have those social skills that, Shane, you were talking about, not just looking at your phone, but actually learn how to talk to people, then you're able in those hard moments, in those crisis moments, or when you feel like you're getting there, to go reach out. And so prevention for me has been a very, very important part of what we do. It's getting people to get comfortable in those situations, comfortable opening up in those situations, so that when there is something hard or when there is crisis, they can talk about it, or hopefully they don't get there.
Yeah, that's so important. And I think it's funny too, because there was a time, it was actually a few months ago, I was trying to figure something out in my mind and I couldn't, and I wanted somebody to talk to. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll go get a therapist. Right. And I started like writing emails to therapists, and I didn't actually know how to word it, because so long story short, I decided not to get a therapist, but I was basically writing these emails and I was saying, I don't want to be diagnosed. I don't have any terrible problems that need solving. I literally just need someone to talk to. And then I started like actually getting on the phone with some of these therapists. And that's actually what got me to say, fuck it, I really don't need this. And this is why I don't believe in therapy anymore, because I was getting on and they're like, so what's your problem? And I'm like, my problem? They're like, yeah, why do you need a therapist? Like, are you depressed? Are you anxious? I'm like, no, I literally just need someone to talk to. They're like, yeah, but are you sad? I'm like, no, I literally just need a sounding board. I need someone to talk to. That's it. And it was like the most confusing thing to these people. They're sitting there and they couldn't understand. What do you mean you just need someone to talk to? And so it's crazy how today's society is all about get you the diagnosis, take the medication. You have to do this. You have to have this crisis problem. You have to have an ability to fit into my book and be diagnosed and qualified so I can bill your insurance. It's just so damn stupid. You, Danny, you know me. We had our first phone call. Yeah. I told you I'm controversial. I hate this shit, but I think what you're doing is so needed. It's so freaking needed to change the way society views mental health. We have to get away from the diagnostic model. Not everybody needs a diagnosis. In fact, there's a lot that shows when you have a diagnosis, you're more likely to act out that diagnosis. So if you've been diagnosed with depression and now you're assuming that as your identity, you're more likely to pay attention to things to make you depressed. You're more likely to carry a sadness throughout the day because you believe you're depressed and you're supposed to be depressed, and this is how depression shows up. And so, oh man, yeah, you're one of my heroes in today's society, Danny.
I appreciate it. There's this concept called social prescribing, Vin. I think we talked about it a little bit. It's very popular in the UK and it's emerging in Japan in the elderly population. And it's this concept that when you're feeling off, when you're feeling lonely, or if you have a traditional medical problem, that the doctor thinks about the non-medical interventions as well. So it's prescribing community-based services that can support your physical and mental health. And I truly believe that this is so important in the mental health space, is not just focusing on that diagnosis, like you were saying, Vin, not just focusing on the problem, but saying what's out there that can make you feel better, that can alleviate what you're feeling right now. And I think that social prescribing will be an interesting thing to watch. And I think for Sprout Society, we feel that we want to fill the gap in peer-to-peer support with respect to social prescribing. So we want to, encourage people to seek somebody to talk to, like you were saying. And it's even, as I mentioned, with entrepreneurs and founders, there are so many problems that they face that they just need to talk it out. But because they're either working alone or because they don't have anyone in their life who's building the same product or building a business in the same way, they just don't have anyone to go to. So then the problem persists. If they don't have that, they keep going. It's still there. Instead of being able to have a network that says, okay, I don't really know you maybe, but I know that you went to Sprout Society because you're an entrepreneur and you maybe felt lonely or you wanted to connect with other entrepreneurs. Can we have a chat? And imagine what that would do, right? It could, if you're building a business, the impact could change.
Oh, phenomenally. Yeah. And here's the other piece, right? I like that you brought up the social part. There's a lot of stuff in other countries. Like America doesn't do this, right? Because America is very heavy on diagnosis and medicate. But if you think about it in other countries, they'll see what's going on with you. They'll be like, oh, you sound depressed. You should go for a walk. Go out into nature. Go camping this weekend. Hey, take a day off from work. Like they'll tell you, just get back into nature. And even for me, I'll say, oh, you're depressed? Cool. Go get abs. By the time you have abs, call me back and tell me if you're depressed.
Go get abs.
Yeah, seriously. Think about that. What are you going to have to do to get abs? You're going to eat healthy. You're going to get good sleep. You're going to drink lots of water. You're going to go to the gym every day. You're going to do cardio. You're going to hit the weights. Like you're depressed? Go sprint. Call me after you finish sprinting. Tell me how depressed you are. Like people don't realize this. A lot of today's problems and diagnoses are really crap from the fact that they're not taking care of themselves at all.
Is it because
and it doesn't
comfortability though?
What'd you say?
Because you and I talk about the importance of networking, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. And that's what I was going to ask Danielle, is because they're comfortable. They're comfortable in their zone, that where they're at. Right? We all know that you need to get uncomfortable to actually get comfortable, right? When you go to these networking events, go to actual Sprouts and make a friend. But is that why they're mentally comfortable, or they're mentally afraid to have failure, maybe to get rejected, or for the unknown? Like, I guess going from that, since Danielle, you've been in this space as well as Vin, what piece of advice can you give for people that are they need that push? Maybe they haven't hit rock bottom yet.
Yeah, I would say be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. It's okay to be vulnerable. Not everyone is going to say yes, and you have to be prepared for that. Not everyone wants to connect with you, but that just means that they're not the right connection, right? There are so many people out there. And I think it's, if you failed if you stopped doing something every single time you failed, you would have no progress. And I think that's actually part of, getting out there and being social. When you're online, it's really, really easy to get a positive feedback loop. You can get positive feedback really quickly, right? It might not be meaningful. It might not last more than 2 seconds. It might be a like on Instagram, but you can get those hits. In person, that's much harder. And so I would say be vulnerable and get out there in person. You have to learn how to navigate and maybe be rejected a few times. Rejection is not such a bad thing. We see it so negatively, but if, that's how you learn. That's how you learn how to excel and to grow and to figure out what's working and what's not. And I think especially in America, it's just a win-win-win mentality rather than maybe rejection is telling you to take a reset. Maybe you're not looking for the right thing, and using that to guide you.
I'm a big fan of that. I hate rejection, but I deal with it all the time because you have
Me
to,
too.
Amen.
right? Like you have to. I was talking to a buddy of mine because he's an entrepreneur as well, but he's a bit on the newer side, and he's trying to sell his business right now, um, because he just doesn't want it anymore. But he's dealing with people showing up, showing interest, and then ghosting him. He's like, "This is insane." I'm like, "Dude, that's business. That's how it always goes, all the time." And if you let that frustrate you and you carry that into your day and your week and your month, and you start taking it out on your kids or your wife, or maybe somebody in your other business, whatever the case may be, like you can't let that stuff stop you. And you're right, Danny, because in today's society, America has grown weak. It's so easy to be great nowadays because it's so easy to be weak nowadays. And so if you're somebody who has a little bit of strength in you, a little bit of thick skin, you could achieve amazing things. So let me ask you this. Does Sprout Society, in what you're seeing in the members and the community that you're building, does it help people not only overcome loneliness and a feeling where they have no community, but does it also help them build these skills that are necessary? Is it also about that forward progress, teaching them, helping them build? Like, how does Sprout Society take people from loneliness to wherever it takes them?
Yeah, so the answer is yes. A big thing we talk about at Sprout Society is resiliency. So exactly what you're talking about, building that mental resiliency. And I think that part of that is, one, learning that there's other people out there that are facing same or similar challenges that you are, right? It's just getting out there. It's the transparency of understanding that, right? It's the awareness. And I think that's for one, right? So you feel less lonely when you just see somebody out there. And I think for, as being part of groups, or whether you're stopping at a listening table or whether you're attending an art show, I think when you get in community, it's an instant feel better moment, right? It doesn't even have to be necessarily with an expert or in a workshop or you actively working on yourself. I think that since COVID, it's become a norm for us to work remotely and be alone and do everything on our own virtually. And while I think it's had great benefits, I also think that you lost the ability to feel how good it feels to be with other people and have a conversation. We talk about when you're feeling lonely, how do you feel better? Go out and smile at a stranger. Somebody used to tell me that and I'd be like, that's such BS. And then I started doing it and I was like, you know what? This actually does. It makes me feel good. I smile at a stranger. Someone talks to me. I get into a conversation. Maybe that means meeting somebody I've never met before. Volunteering is a really big thing, right? At Sprout Society, we want to give people an opportunity to volunteer. We're a nonprofit. Volunteering and giving back, even when you're going through a really hard time, makes you feel better. So I think in the act of actually just being in community at Sprout Society improves mental wellness, makes you feel less lonely. And then, of course, doing the work, right? So if it's a workshop or if you're meeting with an expert or if you're in a peer group that's focused on a specific topic, right? Whether it's grief, for example, you then get to speak with other people about specific things that helped you through. I always say that this foundation is, I productively grieve through the foundation. I call it productive grieving. And I think it's something that's really interesting because when Russell passed away, I didn't know what to do. I had no hope. I didn't even know if another day was going to come forward. But building a nonprofit made me feel like I was making a difference on other people's lives. It made me feel like I was continuing Russell's legacy. I was emulating what he would put out in the world. And so just even by doing that and connecting with people over building a nonprofit, not even grief related, it made me feel good.
I love it.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's it. Shane's on.
Yeah, I'm definitely in. I'm definitely contributing. How can we get involved?
Wait. That's wait. You're jumping ahead. Come on, that's one of the questions that we're going to ask her.
I mean, of course, but I feel like that was like a perfect moment. Like she just
fine.
Build her.
You know what, Shane? Yeah, go ahead. Just mess up the whole order.
Danny wrote down the website. I wrote down the co-founders information. Like I'm going to ask her to email me afterwards so I can get involved. Like you're a rock star. Like
yeah,
and
that's
you
why she's here.
you shine. I mean, we can clearly see it. I love that it's just all for helping other people. I feel like it's well needed in today's society. It's a true calling. And yeah, anyways, before I get all choked up about this, but yeah, how can we get involved?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways you can get involved. One, you can volunteer your time to connect with others or lead groups. Something that Sprout Society is looking to do is have members of the community self-lead peer groups. So that means going through a little bit of our training, a self-training module, starting a peer group, and connecting people, right? I think what we want to do is get as many groups going as possible so that there is a place for everyone. So one, you can start a peer group. Two, you can volunteer with the organization. We have various volunteer opportunities. We, in our space, host different events, different shows, a mental health fair. And so there's ways that you can get involved in that way. And two, you could spread the word. I think just by being on this podcast, I think by talking about loneliness, talking about the fact that life's hard moments presents challenges and that's okay, is really, really important. And so I hope that we can get to a place where we talk about hard things like grief and depression and starting a business and having kids, and that all the taboo and stigma that comes with it is normal. And we can normalize those in conversations.
I'm curious, do you do anything for businesses? I have a decent amount of employees that I think, and they're all virtual, that I think would benefit from hearing this. I don't know if you do any sort of seminars for virtual employees or anything for B2B. But I think even in a corporate setting, virtual, do you do anything like that? I'd love to obviously, compensate for time, but do you do anything for B2B?
We haven't yet. Something that we've been talking about is going into corporate settings.
I'm first. Dibs.
Okay.
Calling
Sold.
it.
You got it. Is going into corporate settings and also going into the caregiver world. So a lot of what we talk about are people going through mental health challenges, but we don't actually talk about the people who are taking care of them. And so those are two areas that we would really like to expand into.
Jeez,
and I'm happy that we're going to be doing it together.
Could you get any better? Like, stop, get out of here, Danielle.
No, don't leave. Don't leave. You stay. So, Danny, why don't you finish telling everybody as well how they could just get in touch with you guys and how they could connect with you, since Shane jumped the gun because he's an eager little puppy.
Absolutely.
Yes. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, my full name, Danielle Kastenbaum. And you can connect with Sprout Society on Instagram, sproutsociety.org, or go to our website, sproutsociety.org. And from there, you'll learn about us. You'll be able to see our offerings. You'll be able to submit an inquiry if you're interested in starting your own peer group or hosting a workshop or getting involved in some other way. And that also goes for mental health professionals or people with lived experience. So if you want to refer people into us, we're always there to talk and create that network.
Love it. And we got two last questions for you now. So we're coming up to the end here. We got to ask our signature questions before we wrap up. Danny, the name of the podcast is the 1% Podcast, not because we're billionaires, we're aspiring billionaires, but we are also under the assumption that anybody could be a 1%er. It's how you achieve greatly in whatever it is that you're excelling at or want to excel at in life, because there realistically is a category of being a 1%er at everything. So what is your version of a 1% life?
That was a good one, Ben.
Thanks.
My version is being vulnerable. As I said, I think vulnerability really gets you into places yourself and with others that you can't get unless you're fully transparent and you are fully open. I think it's really, really hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but once you do it, it feels so freaking good. The second thing is being authentic. I think one of the things that I learned about Sprout Society is that when we stay true to why we started and we stay true to our cause, which is Russell and his values and his mission and his legacy, that is when we see the most success and growth. And the third thing I would say, which is something that is very hard for me and I am working on, is to relax, unwind, unplug. As a type A personality, it is really hard for me. I want to keep going. But sometimes unplugging and recharging is the most important thing that you can do. I've found that, even spending an extra 10 minutes in the shower has brought me so much clarity. It's those moments. And I could never see that before because I'm like, what do you mean? That's time wasted. But for me recently, and it was advice that I received and so that I'm now taking, but it's to relax.
I love it. And I love the vulnerability piece too, because I always like to lead with vulnerability. I believe that your vulnerability becomes your invulnerability. Because if you put it out into the world and you use it as your armor, no one can ever use it against you as a sword.
Yeah. I mean, even when Russell first passed away, my family was very hesitant to tell people that it was from fentanyl. They were ashamed. It was like, what do you mean? How, sure. As I said, like, how could this person die from what they thought was taking a pill and it ended up being fentanyl? And it took my family a while to be vulnerable about it. And so the second that we opened up and we started talking about it was the second that everything unlocked for us. It was the conversations. It was the why. It was being able to authentically talk about how the organization started and our mission. And so I can tell you from personal experience, it is not easy. Don't get me wrong. It is so much easier said than done, but it's worth it on the other side.
100%. Being vulnerable and trauma dumping, by the way, are two different things for all you listeners out there. Well, we don't have time for that.
Professional go into that.
We don't have time for it. You'll have to stay tuned for another episode. But we got one last question for you, Danny, before we wrap up, and hang around for a minute after. So the final question for you is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I'll go with the unwind and unplug.
Love it.
A recent piece of advice that I got was to take a beat. And this person actually told me to take a beat for a week, was to walk away from a project for one whole week. And when this person said this to me, I was like, you are insane. Stop something for a whole week? How would I, I'm going to miss out on the world. And let me tell you, I did it. And I came back with more clarity than I would have had I powered through that week. And so it's something, even if you could find, I know a week is a long time, but pockets of time, just do it.
Love it. It's the best, most underrated advice that entrepreneurs usually don't take, but need to.
Great.
So thanks for sharing that with our audience. All right, everybody, there you have it. The illustrious Danny. Please, please, please go get involved with Sprout Society. Donate time, donate some cash, or I don't know, just go support them. Share their posts. Like, there's always a way to help. Yeah, hang out. And then, hey, here's a fun fact for all you listeners that know I own a laundromat. Danny's society is like a 6-minute walk from my laundromat. So go hang out, meet some people, go do your laundry. In fact, go do your laundry, then go meet some people while you wait for that crap to be done. It's actually a perfect
for
plan.
People that need to get their laundry done.
Yes, and then you guys can all collaborate and hang out for like the 2 hours it'll take to wash and dry. Oh my God. Danny, wait, can people come back and fold their clothes at your facility? Holy crap, we got a plan.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. Guys, stay tuned for the collaboration between Sprout Society and Spin Laundry, the collab you didn't know you needed, but you absolutely do.
So good.
Let's do it.
This is amazing. All right. Guys, there you have it. Another awesome episode in the books with our friend Danny. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, follow. Let us know what you thought of the episode. Let us know if you're going to get involved with Sprout Society. And as always, my friends, I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And that was Danny. See you, everybody.
Bye, guys.
See you.